Hello everyone! I hope you are all okay. We are the group number 3 and presenting our report titled Global Migration. Before we start, I will discuss the learning objectives of our report. After the discussion, the student should be able to describe what is global migration, understand the history of global migration and its current state, enumerate the overall aim and objectives, determine the two types of global migration, understand why people migrate, identify the 3 factors influencing global migration, evaluate pros and cons of global migration. Let's proceed to the first part of our report. What is global migration? Ang global migration ay isang movement ng mga tao na lumilipat sa ibang lugar o sa ibang bansa upang magkaroon ng trabaho, magandang trabaho at buhay. Ang paglipat ng mga tao ay temporaryo or permanente. Karamihan ng migrante ay galing sa mga developing countries katulad ng Pilipinas na nagtutungo sa mga bansang na may mataas at stable na ekonomiya katulad ng bansang US, Canada, mga bansa sa Europe at mga bansa sa Middle East.
Hello po, I'm Recto and I'm going to discuss the aims and objectives of global migration. So first, I'm going to discuss those aims. First aim is to empower and support migrants, particularly those who are most vulnerable. It is important to support and empower them so that they can feel safe and confident to navigate the complex migration challenges and also maximize their opportunities to fulfill their full potential. Next is to promote migrant rights and strengthen social cohesion in leads, which can help migrants to contribute for the growth of the community. They are free to interact for the community for its good. Next is to challenge and reduce the effect of policies that create a hostile environment for the migrants. When we say hostile environment, not friendly siya. Unfair siya para sa mga migrants yung policies na yun. So that one of the aims of the global migration is to reduce those policies na nakaka-offend or unfair sa mga migrants. It is one of the aim of global migration to advocate some policies which promote the rights of every migrants equally and safely and also with their dignity. Next is help other organizations to enhance understanding of migration issues so as to better meet the needs of migrants and avoid having some wrong judgment. The organization needs to know the issue to have some better understanding for the migrants. Now I'm going to discuss the objectives of global migration. So first objectives of global migration is to help migrants make informed positive choices. The migrants will be informed through the provision of information guidance and support. To help migrants, these objectives is to help migrants make informed. Ito ay para magkaroon ng awareness ang mga migrant before they migrate to another place. Next is improve access to justice through signposting and referrals to legal or immigration services and casework support. So these objectives, it gives guide to the migrants. And migrants has right to access justice through the help of immigration services. These objectives will be the assistance of every migrants, or these objectives assist all migrants. The objective of global migration is provide advocacy support for migrants, especially for the vulnerable migrants. to ensure that their rights are protected. Those advocacies helps to every migrants to interact in the society. Next is facilitate access to mainstream provision, including healthcare and employment and others. These objectives makes individual to have an easy and effective access to some mainstream provision. Next, reduce the effect of poverty, destitution, and social exclusion among vulnerable migrants. So one of the objectives of global migration is to reduce or para mabawasan yung epekto ng kahirapan among vulnerable migrants by support access to the provision and humanitarian assistance. Next is raise awareness and develop understanding of migration issues so as to build a society where services are knowledgeable. So the service should be knowledgeable and competent in meeting the needs of migrants.
There are two types of migration, the international migration and the internal migration. International migration is ito yung paglipat ng mga tao sa ibang bansa. Ito yung mga nag-iiba ng residents over a national borders at sila yung tumitira sa ibang bansa permanently or for work. Internal migration is ito yung paglipat ng mga tao within a boundaries of a nation state, provinces, cities. So they move into a single country border. So example nito is sa history, African Americans moved northward during the World War I. So most migrants came from the rural areas. So 1970s, more of them leaving the north and returning to the south because of the civil rights condition. So international migration can be further broken down into 5 groups. Immigrants are, ito yung mga tao na umaalis sa isang bansa at pumupunta sa ibang bansa naman para doon manirahan permanently. They move permanently. So, migrants is, sila yung mga tao na lumilipat naman ng ibang bansa para magtrabaho. They move for a fixed period of time, at least 6 months a year. So, illegal migrants is, sila naman yung naninirahan sa isang bansa na walang legal permission ng bansang pinagtitirhan niya. Forced migrants is, ito naman yung mga pamilya na nakapetition para doon manirahan sa specific na bansa. So, refugees, sila naman yung mga tao na umaalis sa bansa nila, sa lugar nila dahil sa persecution, sa war, sa violence. So, lumilipat sila ng ibang lugar para maging safe sila. Refugees is, tinatawag din silang asylum seeker. Internal migration. So, according to 2004 migration survey result, most of the internal migrants is 69% of them is lumipat dahil sa economic reason. So, 14% for family and the rest for others. So, GSO 2004. So, one of the cost of internal migration of rural areas is dahil sa mga kaunting trabaho, limitado lang yung trabaho nila doon, and yung pressure of underemployment, yung pasahod, maliit lang yung kita, then nagiging cost yun ng paglipat nila sa isang lugar na kung saan doon ay mas nakapagtrabaho sila, sa tingin nila mas malaki yung kita. Ito yung sila lumilipat ng rural areas to urban areas. So, most of migrants are between ages 20 to 34 years.
Global migration history. Global migration history is political history.
Imperial formations from antiquity up to the modern period dependent on the circulations of people, ranging from administrative and military elites to deportees and slaves. So, no, from ancient times to modern period is nakadepende pa rin kung saan imamalagi or kung saang bansa itatransfer yung mga voluntary and involuntary. Yung voluntary, ito yung mga taong pumupunta sa ibang bansa para kumita and para ma-secure yung financial needs nila. While yung involuntary naman, ito yung mga taong nakakaranas sa bansa nila ng war, violence, kaya sila lumilipat ng ibang bansa. And migrants change statewide. Migrants change statewide history by withdrawing their capabilities from one unsatisfactory polity and adding it to another. So yun nga, dahil nga sa yung isang tao nakikilala na siya dun sa mismong nakikilala sila dun sa isang lugar as a citizen, hindi disregard na nila yung capabilities nila sa lugar na pinagmulan nila. Then, they also seek options to invest their human capital. Global migration history is also economic history. The mercantile entanglements across ancient and medieval Afro-Eurasia, the 17th and 18th century world system, the plantations belt, and extractive industries in particular. In the 28th and 21st century, global capitalism would not have existed without forced migrations of slaves and the voluntary migrations of merchants, laborers, and the owners of capital. States military sustain this order. In the present, whole states are dependent on migrants' remittances, other societies on the caregiving labor of migrants. So, yun nga. In the present, yung whole states is nakadepende sila dun sa mga kinikita ng mga migrante. While yung other society naman is patuloy pa rin sila nagbibigay ng trabaho dun sa mga migrante. Furthermore, economic and political regimes are shaped by gender conceptions of mobile people in ways that have produced different experience for women and men. So, kasi yung mobile people is more on technologies. So, dahil doon, mas nag-grow pa yung economic and political regimes and nagmimigay ng more experience regardless the gender. So, iba yung napoproduce, iba yung experience na experience ng women kaysa sa men. And migration is and has been global, macro-regional, and micro-regional. These levels interact across continents. Migrants' lives and the societies they change or even create are transcultural. So, yung migrants, once na nag-migrate sila, is yung pamumuhay nila pwedeng magbago. Then, dagdag ko lang na yung global migration, bakit naog na siya sa political is, di ba yung migration is paglilipat sa ibang lugar, kaya rin political dahil yung mga lumilipat sa katagalan ng pag-stay nila doon is nakaka-acquire sila ng citizenship, so nagkakaroon sila ng right to vote. Sa economy naman is maraming nag-i-invest sa bansa, like dito sa atin, di ba, marami tayong foreign investor na kung saan yung mga foreign investor natin is nagsusupport sa economy natin.
I am Romero and I'm going to tackle the current status of global migration as of 2020. So there is an estimated 272 million international migrants, which is equivalent to 3.5 world's population. And it already surpasses some projections for 2050. Since 1970, the number of people living in a country other than where they were born has tripled. The scale and speed of migration, defined by the International Organization for Migration or IOM, as the movement of persons away from their place of usual residence, either across an international border or within a state, it is notoriously difficult to predict given it can go hand in hand with events such as a severe instability, economic crisis, or conflict. There is so many reasons why people migrate. Later, my co-member will explain it to you. But here are some examples why people migrate. Climate change and weather-related hazard have also driven many people away from their homes, particularly in Mozambique, the Philippines, China, India, and the United States. But the overwhelming reasons most migrants leave their house is to work or to study or for their families. Next topic is migrants' primary destinations. India continues to be the main origin of international migrants, with 17.5 million Indian-born people living abroad. Mexico and China both also have more than 10 million former residents spread around the world. The United States is the primary destination for migrants, though as a proportion of its population, the United Arab Emirates or UAE has the largest migrant contingent. Migration has been a key contributor to population change in some countries such as Equatorial Guinea, where the proportion of international migrants as a percentage of the country's population has increased sharply in recent years. Nearly 17% of people now living in Equatorial Guinea are migrants, compared to less than 1% as recently as 2005. Gulf Cooperation Council states also have seen significant population changes as a result of migration. With many people moving to the region for work, migrants make up the majority of the population in GCC countries, with the exception of Oman and with many people moving to the region for work, migrants make up to the majority of people in GCC countries with the exception of Oman and Saudi Arabia. With the total number of refugees to the highest on record, Turkey was the biggest host nation for the 5th consecutive year, taking in millions of refugees, particularly from Syria.
Good day everyone, I am Marquez from Bsoa 1-4. I'm here to present and report to you the 3 main factors that influence global migration. First, social political factors. Social push factors can include ethnic, religious, racial, and cultural persecution, warfare, or the real or conflict. It is also a major push factor. Individuals migrating due to social or political conditions are more likely to do so as humanitarian migrants. Isang individual moves to the nearest safe country that accepts asylum seekers. As a result, it will have an impact on where they live dahil some countries have a more literal approach to humanitarian migrants than others. Gayunpaman, this will not prevent them from making a second more to a country that provides a wider range of legal rights to asylum seekers. Economic factors. Economic factors relate to the labor standards of a country, its employment situation, and the overall health of its economy. Ito naman, if conditional economies are risky and undesirable, a large number of individuals will likely to move to one with a better economy. Economic migrants are moving to an international one in the hope of higher wages, better job opportunities, and often a desire to escape the domestic, social, and political situation of their own country. Ang mga ito ay maaaring magmula sa mga middle-income countries katulad ng Pilipinas, where the population is becoming increasingly educated. They have a greater degree of choice in determining the destination than human migrants. Ito ang mga individuals who move to countries that require their skills or have a better condition than their country of origin. Sa makatuwid, migrants are more likely to influence the decision-making process in the economy. The ecological factors. Environmental change and its effect on environmental drivers. A range of future environmental changes have the potential to influence the drivers of migration, with the most significant and extensive being global climate change. Dito naman, ang climate change ang most factor that pushes individuals to migrate. Pero even if individuals affected by minimal changes are only at minimal distances, it has the potential to change the social, political, and economic dynamics. There's a sudden or gradual changes in their natural environment associated with at least one of the three effects of climate change, like rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and water shortage. Ang mga individual na ito who are severely affected by the change prefer to flee to another state to seek more favorable environmental conditions elsewhere. Mas pinipili nila na mag-migrate due to more frequent or more destructive natural disaster may be identified as climate refugees and seek asylum in other countries that are less affected by the extreme climate. Gayunpaman, in the fear that it is too late now to take action to prevent climate change, the international community is preparing steps for adaptation. Moving the environment is such as adaptive step that the international community should consider.
So now we're going to answer the question, why do people migrate? But before we answer, individuals migrate because they think that they can improve their own lives or those of their families by doing so. Economic migration is triggered by knowledge o paniniwala na ang mabubuting opportunity na sa ekonomiya ay umiiral sa ilang ibang mga lugar. Sinusundan ito kung saan malaki ang hindi pagkakapareho ng pangrehiyon at lokal na ekonomiya at ang mga tao ay malamang na lumipat kung posible na gawin nila ito. So ayan, isa din sa mga dahilan kung bakit nagkakaroon ng migrasyon is because of inequality considerable. They will also be swayed by individual factors such as contacts with relatives or friends in the destination area or the potential effect of their absence on the household left behind. So, I have here the reasons that can be classified as economic, social, political, or environmental migration. So, the first one is the economic migration. Ito yung paglipat para humanap ng mas magandang oportunidad o trabaho. Just like for example, yung mga overseas Filipino workers or yung mas kilala natin bilang mga OFWs. Yan, sila yung mga tao na pinipiling lumuwas or pumunta sa ibang bansa dahil alam nila na mas magkakaroon sila ng magandang buhay doon. At isa rin doon yung dahilan kung bakit sila pumupunta doon is because mas malaki yung sweldo or yung kita dun sa ibang bansa. The second one is the social migration. Dito naman pumapasok yung paglipat para makasama ang kanilang pamilya o mga kaibigan. Ito naman yung mga tao na pumupunta sa ibang bansa o lumilipat sa ibang lugar para makasama yung mga mahal nila sa buhay. The third one is the political migration. Ito naman yung tumutukoy sa paglipat upang makatakas sa pampolitika na pag-uusig o digmaan. Ito yung mga tao na lumilipat o pumupunta sa ibang bansa para mas maging ligtas sila or pumunta sa bansa na alam nilang mas ligtas sila. So, the last one is the environmental migration. Ito yung paglipat para makaiwas sa sakuna or yung paglipat sa ibang bansa para sa mga para magkaroon ng mas maayos na edukasyon. So, let us now proceed to the push-pull factors of migration. Poverty, job searching, and family influence are the main push factors of our migration, while better opportunity, prior migrants, and availability of job are the main pull factors behind migration. Push factors are those associated with the area of origin. Example of push factors in economic, the first one is the overpopulation. It is a state in which there are too many people consuming too much for the environment to sustain. The second one is the few jobs. Konti lang yung opportunity na makakapagtrabaho dahil konti lang din yung mga trabaho na meron sa isang lugar. The third one is the low wages. Yung income level ng isang employee ay hindi sapat dun sa working hours niya. This lack of economic opportunity tends to push people to look for their opportunities outside the area of origin. So, ayan. Yun nga. Ito yung mga nagiging dahilan kung bakit nagkakaroon ng migration, kung bakit merong mga tao na mas pinipili na mag-ibang bansa kaysa manatili dito sa Pilipinas. Yun ay dahil nga sa hindi ganun sapat yung mga trabaho na nakahanda dito sa bansa natin. At sa ibang bansa naman ay mas malaki din yung opportunity na mas magkaroon sila ng magandang buhay dahil mas malaki din yung sweldo na meron doon. So for our pull factors, these are those that associated with the area of destination. So for example, more jobs. So the more the job is, the more the positive opportunities might come. Syempre, maraming trabaho, mas marami kang opportunity na magkaroon ng income, ng mas malaking income. So the second one is the better jobs, choosing a better jobs for the better future. So ayan, syempre dito magkakaroon ka na ng karapatan na mamili ng trabaho na gusto mo or yung trabaho na sa tingin mo ay suitable sa'yo. The third one is the promise of a better life. Yan. A lot of people wanted to have a better life dahil karamihan ngayon, sa panahon ngayon, mga tao ay pamilyado na. Kaya talagang ginagawa nila yung paraan para mabigyan ng magandang buhay ng mga pamilya nila.
So, my part of this report is positive and negative effects of migration. Migration is becoming the very important subject for the life of cities. Many opportunities and attraction of big cities pull large numbers of people to big cities. Migration can have positive as well as negative effect of the life of the migrants. So, first is positive effects. Potential entrepreneurships. If maraming entrepreneur and maraming business dun sa lugar dahil maraming nag-migrate, maraming magbabayad ng tax and pwedeng gamitin nyo ng government ng lugar na yon para mapaunlad yung bansa nila. So, the second one is the pension gap can be filled by the contribution of new young workers. Yung mga young workers, yung mga lumalabas, halimbawa, sa kumpanya, may lumalabas na pera na binibigay nila sa mga retired na workers nila. Yung mga young workers na lumipat, na nag-migrant sa lugar, is pwede nilang mabalik yung pera na yun dahil sa pagtatrabaho nila dun sa kumpanya na yun. Third one is job vacancies and better skilled workers. Yun. May kakayahan pumili yung isang company ng mas skilled na worker. Siyempre, sino ba namang pipili ng konti yung experience, konti yung nalalaman dun sa trabaho na yun. Mas marami silang opportunities and choices na pwede nilang makuha ng mga workers dahil sa pagmamigrate ng mga tao dun sa isang lugar. Contact with new cultures and expansion of knowledge, the mindset of people change. They start thinking broadly and narrow views change. So ayun, nadadagdagan yung kaalaman natin about dun sa nag-migrate sa lugar natin. Halimbawa, yung tiga US is nag-migrate dito sa Pilipinas. Yung culture nila is pwede nilang makwento o masabi sa atin. And yun, lalawak yung pag-iisip natin about dun sa sa cultures nila dun sa bansa na pinanggalingan niya. And migrants also contribute to technological process. Pwedeng mag-contribute yung migrant sa technological process dahil yung kaalaman niya is pwede niyang mabahagi sa lugar na pagdilipatan niya. And dahil dun sa kaalaman na yun, magkaka-idea yung lugar na pwede rin pala nilang gawin yun. Kasi nagawa naman dun sa lugar na pinanggalingan ng migrant. And the negative effects are unemployment will be rise if there are unrestricted number of incomers. Yan, if hindi makontrol ng isang lugar yung mga migrants na pumunta sa lugar nila, syempre dadami yung unemployment sa lugar na yon. Kasi hindi naman mapupunan ng isang lugar yung napakaraming empleyado na gustong kumuha ng trabaho. And depression may occur especially in lower paid jobs. Ayun nga, negative effect to kasi pwedeng bumaba yung sahod ng isang empleyado dahil na din dun sa mga nagma-migrate o lumilipat dun sa lugar. Kasi syempre, if mas magaling yung bagong kuha na empleyado na nag-migrate, pwedeng madagdagan yung sahod niya, and dun sa mga old workers is mabawasan naman. Having large population puts too much pressure on natural resources, amenities, and services. So, ayun nga, pag masyado ng marami yung population, alam naman natin na ang sobra ay masama. And ayun nga, mahirapan na yung isang lugar na ibigay yung pangangailangan ng mga tao sa lugar nila. Halimbawa na lang sa hospital, katulad ngayon na may COVID, if napakaraming population dyan sa lugar nyo, mahirapan yung mga officials na asikasuhin, lalo na pag dumami yung cases ng COVID sa lugar nyo. There will be cultural barriers. Ayun, pwedeng kanina nasabi ko yung contact with new cultures. Ngayon, pwede rin itong maging negative effects. Siyempre, may iba't ibang pinaniniwalaan ng bawat isa sa atin. Pwede itong maging barrier, and dahil pwedeng hindi ka maniwala sa kanya, or pwede ka rin namang maniwala dahil ayun nga, magkakaiba yung pinaniniwalaan natin. And ang mahirap kung hindi kayo magkaintindihan dahil pwede itong umabot sa away, mga ganon. Rural areas face shortage of skilled people because of most skilled people migrate to urban areas. So, ano nga ba yung rural areas? Yung rural areas is mga probinsya, while urban areas is mga cities. Ayan, kumukonti yung mga ma-experience and magagaling na empleyado sa mga kukonti yung mga skilled workers sa rural areas or mga probinsya dahil pupunta sila sa urban areas or sa mga city dahil alam naman natin na mas malaki yung sweldo ng mga empleyado sa cities. Alam natin 'yun. So, ikaw as empleyado, syempre gugustuhin mo yung malaking sahod. And siguro 'yun yung main reason kung bakit yung mga skilled workers sa rural areas is pumupunta sa urban areas. Yun lang po. And thank you.